Today on Unpacked.
If I knew the challenges of being a pastor, I wasn't going to be a pastor. No one gets married to be divorced.
Do you think you fighting for your marriage would have yielded the outcome you hoped for? When it comes to marriage, the Christian faith has a lot of beliefs and opinions on what marriage should be and what it should look like. So what happens when one of your church leaders gets divorced? Today's guest shares his story. Let's unpack. Being a man of the cloth often opens one up to both public attention and scrutiny, and Pastor Enoch Phiri is no stranger to this. As the founding pastor of Restoration House Church in Walkerville, he is a prominent figure in Christian circles. Through his television program, Taking Dominion, Pastor Phiri has established himself as a tele-evangelist who teaches and inspires many through the Word of God, gracing pulpits and stages alike. Things, however, took a turn 2 years ago when the media caught wind of the difficulties that he was facing in his marriage. The couple eventually divorced after 18 years of marriage. This is his story. Let's unpack. Pastor, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
I'm nervous.
From thank you to I'm nervous. Don't be nervous. I mean, we literally are just the two of us it's just us two talking.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously with the introduction of the show, I can imagine it's nervous because we're going to be talking about your personal life.
Absolutely.
It's not just you standing up on a podium, reciting Bible verses. Let's start at the beginning.
Yeah.
When did you become a pastor? What was that journey like for you?
Wow. I've been a pastor forever. I got saved.
You were born a pastor.
Not really. I got saved at the age of 13 and received the call of the Lord at the age of 17.
What do you mean got saved?
Got saved.
As in you chose, or as in somebody found you and said, we're going to baptize you and introduce Jesus?
I made a decision to follow Jesus.
Yes,
ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, then what happened at 19?
At 19, I went to a theological seminary to study theology, because you can never be effective in ministry if you have not studied, because you need to study first before you can teach people. So I went to study at the age of 19. Then I became a pastor and ordained. Then I pastored my first church in Davidton, Alliance Church in South Africa.
Before you get there, I'm curious, where did you study and what are your thoughts? Because you've already mentioned the fact that you must study. I want to find out what you think about pastors who haven't studied, people that wake up and say, I'm a prophet or I'm a pastor, and they decide to do it. So where was it that you were studying?
I studied at two institutions. I studied at Oral Roberts University in the US and also at Pomelela Bible College in Mpumalanga, White River. Yeah.
What are your beliefs then? Because you've already mentioned that you must study if you want to teach. What are your beliefs about individuals that wake up and say, I'm a pastor, I can lead people, I'm a priest?
These are the people who are messing us up. These are the people who are putting a bad name in the body of Christ, because you can never teach people if you have never been taught yourself, because you need to sit under a lecturer or a professor to get taught, because you see, most people think it's easy to interpret the Bible. The Bible is very complicated. Remember, it was written by 40 different authors within a space of 40 different places of the world, and it's not easy for someone just to wake up in the morning and say, I'm a preacher of the gospel. You need to go study. The church is in a mess today because someone just wakes up the following morning and they think they can preach and teach and exploit people. That's the biggest problem that we're having today in the body of Christ.
So let's come back then. You study in Mpumalanga. You now are based in South Africa.
Yes.
How did you find yourself now actually starting to work as a pastor?
You see, I got ordained by our church, then the Alliance Church. I got ordained and I was deployed to work in a church in Davidton as a local pastor. Okay,
so now you got ordained, and how did you find the home that, was now your first church?
It was very challenging. You remember, when you're in a theological seminary, is very complex because most of the books that we have are written by Americans. So our society is very different from the American society, which I can call, when we study theology, mainly we focus on American society because most of the authors are Americans.
Yes.
And you have to translate from what you've been reading in the theological books to your real life now.
Yes.
Kumele uvakashele abogogo.
Yes,
Uyabona?
yes,
So,
yes.
so the context becomes so much complex for you as a young pastor, and you just have to fit in and be African for once, and get to a point where you minister to people at that level.
But at the same time, in South Africa, we are the land of opportunity.
Absolutely.
You know, in terms of the fact that really anybody can come here and do anything.
Yes.
Especially in this space.
Yes.
Anybody from anywhere, nobody's going to question, oh, you're not from here, or whatever the case may be. You don't even have to show a qualification to open a church.
Which is bad. Which is
Yeah.
bad, because in many other countries, pastoral work is regulated. Like in Germany. In Germany, you cannot stand in front of more than 5 people without being legally documented by the state. So currently in South Africa, we are struggling, especially to differentiate who are legitimate pastors and who are illegitimate pastors. For example, if one pastor sprays doom on someone,
Yes.
we are all put in one
In the category.
Absolutely. For the first time in history, as a pastor, it's very embarrassing going to people and say, I'm a pastor, because people look at you and say, oh, another one.
Yes,
Because a lot has been done, a lot of damage has been done against the body of Christ, and because we're not regulated.
Yeah. So let's go back then. You now have created the space that's been your let me say your religion and faith journey. What was it that actually said to you when you got saved that this is what you want to do? Because many people don't find themselves early on knowing that's what they want to do.
3 people motivated me in history. It was Martin Luther, the activist in the U.S. He was a reverend, absolutely. The way he fought for the rights of the people. First thing that came to me when I got saved was to fight for those that can't fight. It was to speak for those that can speak for themselves. It was Martin Luther, and it was Reverend Frank Chikane.
Yes.
And it was Reverend Bishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu.
Yes.
These were men that really motivated me, because for me, ministry was not so much about standing in front of the people and preach.
Yes.
It was about getting to the people and speak for those that can speak for themselves.
Yeah.
These are the people that really motivated me, and for me, ministry, even today, it's more about that.
Yeah. So now, talk to me about your marriage, where that began, where did you meet her, how did she become your wife?
I met her in Davidson while I was a pastor in Davidson.
Yeah.
I met her in Davidson, and we dated for 2 years. And
what does that look like? Like, I've never dated a pastor. I'm curious, what does that look like to, share with people? When you're a pastor, do you say to her, please come to church with me on Sunday, and that's considered a first date? Or you are courting each other, you are friends, until you say, these are my intentions. What does that look like?
You see, I think for some reason, I don't think that I'm a pastor. I don't dream that I'm a pastor. I just look at myself as a normal human being, a man. You don't date a girl by giving her scriptures. You don't take her out to say, the Bible says, ask and it shall be given. You don't go to that extent. For me, it was just a normal relationship. But for her, the first date, she told me, I hate pastors. I don't want to date a pastor. I don't want to be.
She knew you were a pastor.
She knew I was a pastor.
Yes.
And she used to visit our church. Fortunately, she wasn't a member of our church.
Why do you say fortunately?
Fortunately, because you see, you can't date in the same church where you are pastoring.
But you said you're just a man. You don't see yourself as a pastor.
Yeah, bo.
Okay, so now she says she hates pastors. What was her reason?
I agreed with her, and I told her God bent all the bridges. And I told her that if I knew the challenges of being a pastor, I wasn't going to be a pastor.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I agreed with her. But I said, look, I convinced her as a man. So, Nyaktanda, I love you. Let's make it work. You understand?
Okay, so now you guys date for 2 years.
Yes.
How did you propose?
I'm a very unromantic person.
And you say it so proudly. That you're unromantic.
Because several times she said to me, where's when I look romantic? Because I don't even know what it means to be romantic.
I mean, I'm just thinking, if your reference is the Bible, you might not find very romantic things. Maybe you could try some other references.
Absolutely. I just said, you know what? I'm ready.
How?
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. Then she said to me, then I spoke to my brother. I spoke to 2 pastors, I said, David, that's it.
No surprise, no knee, no ring.
I ring
Later.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so she says, yes, we're going to Lobola, and then you guys get married. What does it look like being a pastor, marrying a non-church leader? And what does that process look like? Because now there's certain expectations of you getting married as a pastor.
You see, like I said, for me, it was just like a man doing his duties to society, getting married. After getting married.
What do you mean by that? It's like a man doing his duties to society. As in, the expectation is when you are of a certain age, you're expected to get married.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as a pastor, I mean, you are standing up preaching about love. You're preaching about, a man being head of the household. So when people look at you, they're also like, when are you getting married?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, you see, my sister, most pastors get married before they are ready. Many pastors. That's why there is a high rate of divorce among pastors. Because many of them get married because they are told that you can't pastor a church if you are not married. So they feel put in a corner and they make hasty decisions of getting married. For me, it was both. I really wanted to get married, and also at the same time, there was that pressure from my leadership to say, you know what, Mfana, you cannot pastor us, you cannot lead us if you're single. You understand what I'm saying?
So it's a big societal belief, because even politicians are seen that way. It's like, can you imagine if our president was single? How would that be?
Because I'm a part union building every weekend.
Okay, so now you guys get married, and I'm assuming everybody feels appeased. So what happens? You get married, and then does everything feel settled, or does something not feel right?
Everything felt so wrong.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, Pastor, now you are married and you say everything felt wrong. What exactly? So that somebody who's watching maybe can also relate to those feelings.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the things that we need to talk about as a church. Because, when I went to a Bible college, we are told that as a pastor, you can't have a formal employment. You can't work.
Yes.
You must serve in the church.
Yes.
Now remember, I've got somebody extra right now who is a wife and expecting at the same time.
Yes.
And I need to provide. And at the same time, I need to depend upon the salary of the church, which is not adequately enough to look after
a family.
After a family, you understand what I'm saying? So I think for me, that became a biggest challenge after getting married. Because remember, she's a young woman, 19 years old, she's got aspirations, she's got dreams. Every woman wants to get married to a rich man for some time. Not you, is it?
I'm dressed the part so a pastor can call me when we're done here.
Hallelujah! Thank you, Jesus. She's got aspirations, she's got dreams. She wants to get somewhere. And here you are, confine her in a mission house. That was a very big challenge for me.
But now, in fairness, did you guys not speak about those things before? Because she had already said to you on date 1, I hate pastors, for whatever her reasons were, right? And at some point, you two as a couple are going to have conversations about, this is where I'm at. And maybe even when you were lobolaring, you said, guys, I took last week's tithe to come lobola this
Absolutely,
week.
absolutely.
You know, so why was it a surprise?
It was. You see the way it was done, especially in the late 90s. When you go for premarital counseling,
Yes.
they never zoomed into the financial aspect of your lives. You understand what I'm saying? And also, the other thing that I felt a bit uncomfortable, which I'm very much cautious about today, is when people would impose on a 19-year-old child to say, manje se umamfundisi.
Yeah,
As umamfundisi, you must live by faith. You
Yes.
must do this, you must do that. You understand what I'm saying? So we are coming from a background as pastors, especially 20 years ago,
Yeah.
over 20 years ago, where we were taught to trust God, which is good, to
Yes.
trust God. We are not motivated that we can also work and look
Yes.
after our families, because one of the things that we mess up as pastors is that when we get married, we expect our wives to serve in the church,
Yeah.
which shouldn't be, because she's not married to the church, she's married to me.
To the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the most complexity about being a pastor is that it's like you have got two wives. You've got
church
a church
and a wife.
and your wife.
Yeah.
You go to a church and the church is dictating you what you should do, and you go home and your wife is expecting you to be a husband.
You know, I have to be honest, I'm very liberal.
Absolutely.
I see you as a human being before I see you as what your calling is, or
Ngiyabonga
before,
mamfundisi.
or before what your work is.
Yeah.
However, I can understand why church leaders are expected to have their private lives so-called in order or in a certain way. Because we want to know that the formula you are giving us, the messaging you are giving us, is manifested in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So on that note then, how did you build up to the part that now the marriage is starting to break down?
It's very strange, eh? You know, when I was serving as a full-time pastor,
Yes.
we were so much in love. When we were poor, if I can tell you,
Yes.
we were so much in love. We took a long walks along the beaches in Durban, in Cape Town. You know, we had good time, okay? Until one day, my sister, you know, because of resources, which was scarce, I saw my wife on her periods putting a cloth.
Oh, as in her menstruation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That messed me up. You know, you can't be a man and you look at that and remain normal.
As in, so in essence, the issue was she wasn't using a disposable sanitary pad.
Yes.
She was using a cloth.
Yes.
Which for you represented what?
For me, represented poverty, because we had no money at that
Yes.
time. It represented poverty, and also she couldn't come to me and ask me for money because she knew I had no money.
Yeah.
But then she was unemployed. So when I saw that, it messed my mind up.
Yeah.
Then I made a decision that I'm gonna go in the marketplace. I'm gonna start
Look
a
for
business.
employment.
I'm gonna look for employment.
Yeah.
I don't care who says what.
Yeah.
I felt like, you know what, this is an opportunity for me just to break loose from the systems and from the church structures and regulations and from what people say that as a pastor you can't work.
Yes.
Then I went into business, I made millions, and I became very, very busy. And to a certain extent, there were times whereby I would meet my wife at the airport. She would give me new clothes at the airport, then connecting.
Because there was no time. What was the business, just to give us context? You say you decided to look for opportunity, employment,
Yes,
work,
yes.
but it wasn't at the time your intention to leave the church. You were just wanting to supplement your income.
Absolutely. You know, that time, the first employment that I got, the former employment that I got was in the South African Police Service.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, as a chaplain. You know, I worked there, and the appetite of money grew, and I went into fuel
Because
business.
the more
Absolutely.
you get, the more you need.
Yeah, I went into fuel. I did commodity business,
Yes.
which mainly I was supplying countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Malawi, and my suppliers were based in Dubai. So
Yes.
I had to travel overseas,
Yes.
and I have to travel across the African continent, and at the same time I have to be a pastor.
Yes.
Every Sunday I had to make sure that I'm in church. Every Sunday I'm in church, and after church service I'm out of the country. So I think there was that part where I neglected my family. I neglected my family. I became too busy. And every time when my wife would ask me, for time. They said, no, I'll make time. Busy, ngiyasebenza. I'm working for you as a family. I'm working for us as a family. You understand what I'm saying?
And at the time, what is the current family structure while all of that was happening? It's you, your wife, and how many kids?
3 kids.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, so, yeah, I think that's where things got messed up.
Yes.
During this period of time, you know, because at that time I believed that I had to work. I believed that I had to run around. I believed that, you remember, at the backdrop, I've got what I saw years ago. What, you know, as a woman, you know, for me, I felt like as a woman, she really, she was in a mess. This is how I felt. She was in a mess, and she needed me to rescue her.
Yes.
And in the process of rescuing her, I became too busy.
In the process of rescuing her, did you abandon her?
In a way.
Okay.
In a way, I abandoned her in the sense that I wasn't there.
Yes.
For her, I wasn't there for the children,
Yes.
and for me, it was as long as money is coming in.
Yeah.
You know,
For you, it was justified.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as you know, as long as she can call me that she needs 50,000, then I said I'll wire it. For me, I felt like I've done husbandly duties, and I was cool with that.
When was the moment that things now ended?
In 2019, she said she needed a divorce because she can't be with an absent father, absent husband. You know, I'm there, I'm not there. But you see, it has been said that when a woman makes a decision to divorce, she has already gone through that route 2 years before.
We broke up with you long ago.
Yeah.
By the time we end, but now, I don't believe that that was the first time she mentioned it. Because, and the reason I say this is, my belief is a woman tells you and asks you and shows you multiple times. So yes, maybe at the end she's saying, I want a divorce. What was she saying prior to that? Was she not saying, if you keep this up, I'm going to leave?
You see, it's very strange. She's not a very talkative person. She doesn't like talking, but she makes a statement.
What was her statement?
The statement was that she needs time with me.
And, okay, but beyond that, she never said, if you don't give me time, then X, Y, and Z.
For some reason, she never threatened me like that, you know.
Okay, but what did her behavior say?
Her behavior was saying that she needed me home. She needed time with me. She needed to spend more time with me. And at that time, for me, I felt like she was being inconsiderate in the sense that I'm working and I need to work for my family. And several times I said I hate poverty and what it represents because I went through that.
Yeah.
You know, when you are a pastor and you don't have resources, you don't have a voice, even in the church, I can tell you, you can preach because a sermon does not authenticate you to be a leader. What gives you authentication as a leader is when you are in a boardroom with your leaders and you are able to make decisions as a pastor. And if you don't have resources, your voice is not even taken into consideration.
But I can see that because also it's difficult to listen to somebody whose life is not reflective of the things they are preaching.
Absolutely.
So if people are coming to church saying, I'm praying for a job, and you say, it is done.
Yeah.
God has heard you.
Yes.
God will answer your prayers. But if you don't have a job, if you're not working, how can I believe that it will happen for me? So I understand that. So now she says, I want a divorce, but I'm assuming it didn't come as a surprise to you.
Not really. It didn't come as a surprise. Like you've said, I can't just really point out when was the first time she hinted that if you don't do this and this and that, I'll leave. She wasn't actually threatening me, but she was coming very strong to say, you know what, we need time together as a couple. We need time together as a family.
Yeah.
You can't be this busy. Make time for us.
Yeah.
And for me, at the same time, I felt, look, I've got a meeting in Sandton. I need to meet some people. I need to meet some business people. I need to close this deal. Because for me, you must remember, ma'am, I'm coming from a background whereby you are into ministry. You've never done any other formal education which can be relevant to the corporate South Africa or to the corporate world. Or you've done theology. Where am I going to take my theological certificate into what company? Where am I going to go with it? To say, I've got theology, I'm looking for a job. You understand what I'm saying? So you are put in a place where you know that literally all I have is a metric in the theological studies, which is not relevant to the corporate South Africa.
I actually feel like that in itself is its own episode, because there's some young people at home who have studied theology or have gone that route and are sitting unemployed without income.
Absolutely.
That in itself is its own conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm in this space. So what do I do? I thank God for the brains. I thank God for the opportunity of business. So what do? I just get myself busy. Yeah. Even if I can make 50 million and retire at the age of 50, I'm okay.
Yeah. So now she asked for a divorce. Did you immediately say yes, or did you try seek help? Because you're the same two that went for premarital counseling.
Absolutely. Okay, before we actually went to that extent of divorce, we had gone to Dr. David Mulapo. That's why I would have loved him to be on Zoom and talk to us. I'd spoken to Bishop Katide.
Yeah.
I'd spoken to Apostle Sitole from Davidson. We spoke to a lot of people about the whole issue, you know what I mean, about the challenges that we were facing in our marriage. So by the time she was asking for a divorce, we had already spoken to a number of people. So for me, it was like,
yeah.
Where are the papers?
Wow.
Yeah.
And you just signed?
I just signed.
So you just granted her the divorce because by then you'd already sought all the help you could find, and you said it's fine, it's done. But then how did you feel that was going to reflect on you being a pastor, you being even a businessman?
Yeah. First and foremost, you must remember that people that suffer the most when you are going through a divorce, or even before you get to a divorce, is children. Because you have got a lot of arguments. You fight a lot. You talk, there's a lot of ongoing discussions where you don't really agree on anything.
Yeah.
At that point, I felt I was doing both of us a favor, but I never thought about the children.
Oh, so you never thought of any of the consequences?
Absolutely.
So what were those consequences?
The consequences were, I remember going to church. In fact, it was a Sunday. I went to church and people were calling me, I'm Fundi, sorry, shame.
How did they find out?
Through the newspapers.
Okay.
So when I went, I didn't even read the newspapers. So when I got to church, it's like everyone knew what was happening, and it was only then I started having meetings with the members of the leadership. Coming to me to say, Mfundi, say we are divorced and we can't be under a pastor who was divorced. And it created a lot of commotions in the church. My young pastor started opening new churches,
Yes.
The following Sunday, just hear that there's a new church somewhere.
Yes.
There's another new church somewhere. People took advantage.
Yes.
It was a time when I needed people close. And that was a time when people really abandoned me. Pastors abandoned me, friends abandoned me because they didn't want to be associated with this man who is going through a divorce. And that was a Damascus experience where I came back to my senses and said, what have I done? What has really happened? At that time, it was a mess.
Did you feel more judged as a pastor or as a man?
Both. Yeah, first and foremost, as a pastor, I felt actually very much judged, very much judged, mainly from my fellow pastors.
The irony.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of pastors judged me too much, and they took advantage of my vulnerability, and they even went to an extent of speaking ill of me. You know what people don't know is that divorce is an accident. No one gets married to be divorced. If there's anything that I will never encourage anybody to do is divorce, because it messes you up. It destroys you. It repositions you to be a failure. This is how I felt as a man and as a pastor. You know, also at the same time, I want to commend certain people like Bishop Benjamin Dube. You know, he took time, Dr. Mulapo, Bishop Musasono took time to come to me to say, Phiri, Zdintit, wake up and go, because I just lost it. I just lost it, you know, because you see, what we don't realize is that, you know, when you go through divorce, my sister, it messes you, the person who signed, and also messes the person who submitted papers to you. You both get messed up. I don't want to talk about children. With children, it becomes a hell on earth for them. You know, and if I was given a chance, I was not going to go through that route.
So you would have fought for your marriage?
Yes, I would have done that. I was going to do that.
Do you think, having said what you said, which is that by the time a woman says she wants a divorce, she's already made the decision long ago, do you think you fighting for your marriage would have yielded the outcome you hoped for?
Yes. You know what I would have done? Because I've got a number of properties. I would have moved to another property to give her time to think. And I was going to be sending...
How? She said she wants time with you. Now you want to move to another property.
No. When she says to me, I want a divorce.
Yes.
I want a divorce. At that time, I was not going to get excited to sign.
Yes.
I think it was pride to a certain extent. You know, I was not going to sign the papers. I was going to say, you know what, let me give you time to think. And I'll be sending you a truck of flowers every weekend.
But the reason I don't agree with you, and I'm speaking as a woman, is because if my cry to you was, I need time with you, and I can completely relate to that. And then I say to you, I want a divorce, and your response is, I'm going to send you a truck of flowers and give you space. What I would hope you would say to me as my man is to say, I'm stopping the work until this is fixed. I'm going to be right next to you.
Absolutely.
Even if you're angry at me, even if you want to keep the divorce papers here. Me, I'm not signing anything, but I want to be here.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Do you feel like you failed your family?
Yes, big time. I failed my family, I failed myself, I failed the church, and I failed the community.
Why do you say you failed the church?
You know, in the church, we've got, you know, people come to church. Let me put it in this way. You know, family is the biggest institution that God has ordained on earth. And if you as a pastor, I want to emphasize the word pastor. As a pastor, if you can't look properly after your family, then you have failed the church. You see, when people come to church because they want to be healed. And they don't expect a healer to be wounded, unfortunately. And I consider myself as a wounded healer. You know, you see, I come to church as a pastor, ministering to people, healing people, yet at the same time I'm wounded. Now, when it gets to a point whereby people get to know you close and see how wounded you are, it discourages them big time.
But you know what's interesting? In business, there are many people who say, I will never fund a business that has never failed.
Absolutely.
So there's the part of me that says, I would prefer the pastor counseling me that has gone through the difficulties he's talking to me about. Not the pastor who had the perfect marriage. Because when I come to you with my problems, how can you relate? How can you help fix them?
You're right. You see, you must remember, the church folks are very judgmental. I can tell you. I always say, business, politics, and church. If you compare where you get the most wicked people, it's in the church. People in the church, they'll kill you with prayer. You know, if you've got a problem, you know what they say? They say, bazalwane nizwile ukuthi usister sibanibani kwenzakalani kwakhe. Ngicela simthandazele before bakuthandazela baphozitiya. Bazokuhleba bakucede. You see, and by the time they are done with prayer, you'll be done your inner self wherever you be.
I'm so glad the words came from you and not from me.
Yes.
Because that's also how I reflect on that. So where are you today in relation to your ex-wife? What's your relationship like? She's
my best friend. We talk all the time. You know, there were times...
So now you have time for her. That's your divorce.
That's very interesting, you know. You see, there was a time when I was really angry. I was bitter towards her. I was bitter because I lost things. I lost houses, I lost cars, and I lost reputation. I lost
your
church.
You lost your
Above
family.
all, I lost my family. You understand what I'm saying? You know, to an extent where by bengimthuka every day. Ngimthuke nje ngivuke nje ekuseni nje ngimthuke lunch ngimthuke until she did a protection order against me.
Oh my God!
That's how bad it was. You know, and got to a point. You know, got to a point and I said, you know what? This is the mother of my children. She had to make a decision of the things based on her own assessments. Then I went to her and I apologized. And I said to her, for the sake of the children, I mean, let's be civil. Let's talk. You know, and we've been talking. And sometimes when she's going through hard times in her business, she'll call me for advices. Then I'll give her an advice, because I discovered that for the sake of these children, we really need to create a relationship. She's not my enemy. She had to make a decision, and that decision had to protect herself, especially as a woman. You know, then we got to those angles, and we agreed to say we are going to raise these children together.
I respect a man that can openly admit how you wronged her and how you made it right. Like, for you to openly say she got a protection order against me.
Absolutely.
I respect you being able to say that out loud. Many men are not able to do that.
I'm saying this because I want you to be Mamfundis Pela.
To the pastors who are already in my DMs, continue. No, I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
So you would say you guys are in a much better place.
Absolutely.
Does it mean you are reconsidering marriage?
Remarrying.
Would you consider remarrying?
I don't think it will be possible.
Why?
A lot has happened.
Not necessarily her, but for yourself.
Me getting remarried.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Are you dating?
Yes or no?
I'll take that as a yes, that you are dating.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
You're trying to date. So what
to.
if this new woman in your life says, I want to get married? Like, I don't want to live with you in sin. Make an honest woman out of me.
Yeah, ne? Yeah. You see, that's a very hard one. You know, when you're a returned soldier, ne? When you're a returned soldier, you've been divorced and you were married for a very long time, like 18 years. You had known somebody for 20 years.
Yeah.
And starting a new life, starting dating again, it's very much complicated. You know, this woman complains a lot about time, that I don't have time for her. You know,
yeah. When you say this woman, I talk about the new girlfriend.
I don't have time. You complain. Mina ngithi uyabona but amanzi lapha amakhona azophinda amekhona futhi.
But why are you not fixing the real problem, which is you?
Yeah, I'm busy with myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm busy with myself.
Okay.
You know, one of the things that most people make, most mistakes that most people make, especially when they come from previous marriages, is to rush into a new relationship or into a new commitment. You know what I'm saying? Without doing proper postmortem. So for me, you know, I date on the basis of companionship.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I'm in deep conversations with myself, where I'm really talking to myself and wanting to find myself. Whether when I open a new page, am I going to be a better person than I was before, or am I going to be a worse person than ever before? You understand what I'm saying? So it's not just as easy as getting into a new place, into a new relationship, onky dolly, everything is okay. I know most people that have divorced, they divorce again because they never fixed themselves. You know, I've taken time to fix myself, and also I've taken time also to listen to my ex-wife and listen to her as friends. Really, where did things go wrong? You know, and also from her side, where did things go wrong from her side and from my side? We talk a lot about that, and this helps me to really navigate into a new space without any interference. But it's not as easy as you can't be with somebody for 20 years and divorce in 2019, then in 2021 you just say, you know, I'm moving on.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I made very clear even to this young woman that I'm seeing is that you know what, it's not as easy as like ABC, you know, I'm coming. It's like I'm coming out of there and I'm getting in here.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as easy as that. I've even asked for even more time for me to heal.
Yes.
You know, because healing is not an event. Healing is a process.
Yes. Yes. And I can respect everything that you've said, especially about the fact that you don't want to just jump into a new commitment of a certain nature without having addressed the issues that you need to address. And yes, I said it jokingly that you are the problem, but I think you understood what I was trying to say is that at the end of the day...
Men are a problem.
Ooh, I'm glad you're saying this.
We are a problem. Listen to me. I'll tell you something. In a man, there are three people. In a man, there's a fool in a man, there's a child in a man, and there's a king in a man. And many of us are fools. Yeah. And it takes a very good woman to delete a fool in a man and bring a king out of a man.
No. That's the note I want to leave it on. You know, is that you can bring the king out of a man. Pastor, thank you so much for coming to talk to us. Thank you for your honesty and your candidness. And it makes me sad that there are still spaces where church is the most judgmental space.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, church is still the house of human beings. It's not just the house of God. And I think where you are in your journey is such a beautiful place to inspire people that are watching today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Ooh, all I can say is for me, this was such an enlightening episode because whether you're a Christian, whether you attend church or not, the things that we spoke about today are so relevant, especially when it comes to marriage and divorce. And yes, let's not forget that the people that we need to consider in those situations are the children. I hope those of you that are watching at home got enlightened and that learned something, especially to the gentlemen out there that are looking to take a woman as a wife. Lots to be learned. Hashtag Unpacked with Relebogile. Head over to our socials, engage with us, talk with us. Thank you for watching. Good night. Next time on Unpacked.
If I walk into a bar dressed in drag, I will either get punched or, I will get the most hateful remarks thrown my way. The drag persona was a shield to the things that society, threw our way or said our way.
Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. New episodes weekdays at 5:30 p.m. on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Television edited broadcasts weekdays at 5 p.m. Open up to S3.